Hello paper crafters and welcome to the day 2 of my 25 days of Christmas card making tutorial series. The project number 1 featured a front door decorated for Christmas, but this time it's the inside of the house, an entire room dressed up for holidays. This is a trifold card that can be folded flat and sent in an envelope, but when you unfold it, it becomes a 3D mantelpiece or tabletop decoration. So let's get started. To create a card base, I'm going to use this panel die from Room Divider die set by Paper Discovery. I'm going to die cut it 3 times out of one sheet of double-sided patterned paper. This one is off-white color. Next, I'm going to die cut this diamond patterned panel together with the matching outline. This die is also by Paper Discovery. The die set is called Card Builder Panel. I'm using Nina Solar White cardstock here. These dies coordinate with the Room Divider dies perfectly. Now I'm going to take the Room Divider panels and I'm going to trim off that arch at the top from the 2 of the panels. I'm only going to leave one of them. I'm also going to trim off that tab at the side from one of the panels. The next step will be sticking down all the lacy panels on top of the plain ones. As always, I'm using Ranger Multimedia Matte in a needle applicator bottle as the liquid glue. It dries matte and clear, it's super strong and I always have it at hand. Now I am ready to assemble the Room Divider. I'm applying some liquid adhesive onto that vertical tab and I'm sticking the second panel right next to the first one, and then I'm going to attach another one. I'm placing the panel with the arch in the center of my Room Divider. To fill in the room with the furniture, I'm going to use the dies from the Elegant Room die set as well as the Window Editions die set. The first element I'm going to create is the wreath. I have die cut it 2 times out of thick craft cardstock and 1 time out of green patterned paper. Now I'm going to layer all 3 pieces together to create more dimension. I will do that layering technique to nearly every element on this project. As always, the tools and supplies that I'm using will be listed down below in the description box as well as on my blog with links to online stores. Since I want to add some red berries to that wreath, I've die cut it 1 more time out of red patterned paper, and then I'm going to inlay all those tiny little berries. I'm applying some glue onto each berry and then I'm going to use the pickup tool to lift up every tiny die cut and place it inside each round hole here. You can totally use this wreath without the inlaying, but I just love those tiny added details. This bow die comes with the wreath, so I'm going to place the die cut back into the die now, and I'm using the brown marker to kind of stencil through the die, and this is going to add some dimension to the little bow. This long die is actually the tree trunk. It's from other set of dies, but this time I'm going to use it to create the long ribbons to add to the wreath. Now I'm sticking down those long ribbon ends to the wreath and then I'm placing the bow on top of them. I'm also going to attach the golden bead onto the bow. This is actually one more berry from the wreath, but this time it's die cut out of gold mirror cardstock. The next element is a candle. It's also the part of the wreath set. I've die cut it out of white and out of green paper. Now I'm trimming off the leaves and I'm placing them on top of the white die cut. This way I'm going to create the color as well as some added texture. Then I'm using the yellow marker to color the flames on a candle. And I'm adding some red as well. The biggest element in this room is that sofa. I've die cut it out of brown wood grain and out of red papers. Then I'm going to take those plaid die cuts and I'm placing them back into the die, and again I'm going to stencil through the die. I'm just applying some ground espresso distress ink with the sponge applicator. You can also use this die to add some embossing, but I really do prefer stenciling because it adds more contrast. Then I'm using the same ink, ground espresso, to go around the edges of each plaid die cut. This is also going to add more dimension and make this image a bit more realistic. And now let's go ahead and assemble that sofa. The first element I'm attaching onto the base is that wooden frame. I'm lining up the edges of the die cuts and then I'm pressing the die cut down with a large acrylic block. Once the frame is attached, all other elements come together really quickly, just like a jigsaw puzzle. By the way, I have some good news for those who wanted to purchase the Elegant Room die set, but it was sold out. It is now back in stock. This sofa is now finished and I'm moving on to the next element, which is going to be a Christmas tree. This is quite a large die and I really want it to be a bit smaller for this project, so I'm simply drawing the line along some branches of the tree and I'm using the scissors to trim this piece down. Then I'm also going to add a couple of layers of cardstock at the back side to make this die cut more dimensional. The next element is this frame. It's also the part of the Elegant Room set. I'm applying some ink through the die again. This time I'm using Antique Linen Distress Oxide ink. It works great with the darker cardstock colors. To fill in the picture frames, I'm going to use some leftover patterned papers. This particular set I'm using is unfortunately discontinued, but I'm going to link you up to the similar one by the same designer. I'm going to use 2 frames on this project. I'm simply applying some glue at the wrong side and I'm framing the portion of the pattern that I want on my project. Once the glue is dry, I'm going to use the scissors and trim off all the extra paper. By the way, you can use the real pictures of your family and add them to your card. It is such a great way to personalize your card. So now when I have all the elements ready, I'm going to attach them to the card base. But before I do it, I'm just going to fold my card base along the creased line that are created by the die. I'm just using the bone folder to press down the fold, and then I'm flattening out the card base, and now I'm ready to go. Since there are so many elements, it's easier to start with the largest one, so I'm going to attach this sofa right in the center of the card. I'm applying the glue only in the center of the die cut because I'm going to attach it only to the central panel and not to the sides. This way the card can be folded like this. Once the largest focal element is added, it's much easier to do with the rest, so the next element I'm adding is going to be the wreath. I'm placing it right above the sofa in the center of the card. Next, I'm going to add the picture frames. I'm placing them symmetrically onto the left and the right panel. Since the background is textured, I'm trying to place a bit more glue than usual to attach the die cuts to the card base. You can see the room already has some structure, and the next element I'm adding is the Christmas tree. I'm tucking it behind the sofa and sticking it down. I'm trying to line up the die cuts with the legs of the room divider so that the furniture will not be floating in the air. Now I'm attaching that small round table to the right of the sofa. Now when all the largest pieces are on their place, I'm going to add some smaller elements and decorations. So now I'm attaching those bolster cushions that are also the part of the elegant room set. I've created them out of golden and out of red papers. This die is a bunch of gift boxes, and it has the outline as well as the background, but this time I'm not going to use all of them. I'm just going to use my scissors and cut out a couple of gift boxes. I'm sticking down the boxes on top of the background, and then I'm going to cut them out again to create that red outline. So now I'm using both the foam squares and the regular liquid glue to attach one of the gifts on top of the table, and then I'm going to add the candle as well. At this point I have noticed that the candle blends with the background just a little bit, so I wanted it to stand out more. This is why I have created one more additional gift box. It's a simple rectangle, and I'm tucking it behind the candle. There are some even smaller details that I can add to the candle. For instance, this poinsettia flower is also the part of the set, and I'm placing it onto the greenery. Then I'm adding the remaining large box between the table and the sofa, just like that. When you are creating the room scene, it's always nice to add some life to it. That is why the cat and the dog die are also included in the set. I have die cut both images out of an off-white pattern paper, and now I'm inking up the edges of both the cat and the dog die cuts. Then I'm also going to color the cat with the tea dye distress ink. There is an interesting trick with the cat and the dog die cuts, and it was suggested by one of my viewers. You can see that the outline of the dog's face is created by several die-cut lines. So now you can just take your scissors and kind of connect all those lines. Just create some tiny little clips. And now you can lift up the muzzle on one side. I'm adding a little bit of inking, and now I'm ready to demonstrate the trick. I'm lifting up the dog's head, and I'm tucking the cat behind it. What a cozy little scene it creates. Now I'm just adding a little bit of adhesive behind the die cuts to stick them together. And if you want even more dimension, you can go ahead and attach one small foam square just behind the dog's head. Then I'm using the foam squares to attach the dog and the cat onto the sofa in the center of the card. The card is nearly finished now, but I still feel it needs a bit more finishing touches. I'm placing that small circle die cut at the top of the arch. You can also use a brad or a bead for it. Then I have used the wreath die again to die cut all those small golden beads. They are basically the berries from the wreath. And then I'm attaching the smaller ones onto that poinsettia flower. And I'm going to use the rest of them to create Christmas tree decorations. There are actually some ornaments that are the part of the set, but for this project I wanted the ornaments to be really small, so I used the berries from the wreath. I have also noticed that the center of the card looks a bit empty, so I decided to add some additional ribbons to the wreath. I used the spatula to lift up the wreath die cut, and then I'm tucking the ribbons behind it and securing them with the glue. This is basically how you can balance out any composition that has so many elements. And this is what the finished project looks like. It can totally be used as a 3D decoration because it can stand on its own, but you can also mail it in an envelope. You can fold it down just like that, and it's going to fit into a 5.5 by 8.5 envelope. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to see Day 2 projects from the previous years, you will see the links right on the screen at the end of the video. Have a beautiful day and come back soon to watch the project number 3. See you then!